breaking down the headlines.
It's the news I trust.
This is today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Billionaire property developers Harry Triguboff and Tim Gurner predict an almighty rental crisis driven by the rapid rebound of migrants and international students. TNT Radio News producer Jeremy Beck has details on this story. Jeremy.
Thanks, Damien. Property developer Tim Gurner, founder and CEO of the $10 billion Gurner Group, says you've got a situation where there's no supply and immigrants are coming back. International students and the Chinese are returning, and so we're going to have an almighty rental crisis. Now, he added, at some point in the next 6 months to 18 months, you're going to have an almighty boom. The government is going to have to do something to loosen up lending, so the market should stabilise and then take off. Now, Australia's population grew by a record high, 482,000 in 2022, driven by net overseas migration of nearly 400,000, also a record. The early indications are that net overseas migration will surge even higher in 2023 this year, given net temporary visa arrivals, excluding visitors, are booming on the back of record international student movements. Now, Triguboff, he is upset. He is upset about the Reserve Bank interest rate rises. He says you can't beat inflation by raising rates. It's rubbish. It affects housing the most, which is definitely depressed because no one is building. So they build less, but the demand grows, and then prices will go up. It's only a matter of time. So I think, Damien, that between migration numbers and interest rate policy, this will be a spot to watch.
So, Jeremy, there's vested interest going on here for both Harry and Tim to be forecasting an almighty rental crisis?
I think so. I think that a lot of these statements are geared towards their business interests. So, forgive me for being cynical, but I think that possibly could be a motive. But at the same time, I do see that we could have a major rental crisis. We already do have in some respects now, but it could get a lot worse. So there could be an element of truth there, but also some of their statements would be geared towards loosening up things that will assist their business and assist their building. Certainly, the interest rate issues would be some concern to them because that will depreciate the property prices, and I don't think that they want to see that.
So is population growth is going to be a pressing issue for Australia in the coming years, isn't it?
I think it could be. Certainly at the moment, it is. We've seen big numbers coming in, and this is just, I think, a post-COVID reality, not so much COVID policy. But if you look at the long-term history of Australia, there's been some quite big immigration changes, and you've highlighted that just earlier on. I think if you look at the big changes, and I've studied them in a spreadsheet, adding all the numbers throughout the entire years of Australia's immigration, some of the biggest increases in migration were in the early years, and we had massive increases. And then, of course, we had the post-World War II boom. So what we're seeing right now is starting to get up there again, not nearly as high as the very early days in percentage-wise, of course, the biggest in absolute numbers. But it is a pressing issue, and we have to ensure that we can manage the economic growth so that we don't have shortages of certain necessary commodities and housing, etc.
It's going to be a big issue, I reckon, in tomorrow's election in New South Wales. I know there's been talk about providing some for the government to provide some sort of stamp duty relief, particularly to first home buyers, or to spread it out over an extended period, not to have to be hit up in one hit just to enter the market.
Yeah, I think it will be quite a significant election issue, state election issue this weekend, Damien. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes. It seems quite likely that the current government is on the way out, and we'll see a state government. But then again, Tweedledum, Tweedledee, I think, between Labor and Liberal.
I was going to ask you, but that's your prediction, is it? You think it's going to be a Minns government?
Seems likely according to the polls, but then again, who knows? We'll find out on the day.
Jeremy Beck, news producer, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for that story. You're listening to TNT Radio.